what's up, dude? It's Joshy J. I want to talk about eyeballing everything. So I have been criticized for this in the past, of eyeballing things from too far. It's like all the people that paint a lot of realism mostly don't like that type of a thing, because they're like, no, you have to get it like pin perfect exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a type of personality that you have to eyeball something from a distance, to kind of like generally like get the gist of it. Or you get the type of person that like goes right in there and then they're like they want to like nail every single detail. So yeah, I mean, it's just different personality types, but I want to talk about my kind of ways of eyeballing things from a distance. And you can study, a lot of fine artists do this kind of stuff really well, especially the environment artists. I remember I studied John Burton for quite a long time, just the way that he blocked out certain shapes from a distance. And I learned a lot about that, about seeing things in a type of way from a distance, just how the shapes piece together, and how basically everything is made up of shapes. So you have like all your shadows are made up of shapes, all your lights are made up of shapes. When you start to see the world in this light, you start to think like, geez, everything in this whole world is just like, what you're seeing is just like a 2D plane, and it's all just shapes pieced together. It's actually it's quite mind-blowing to actually think of it in that light. So this scene that I did for the game that I built with my team it's like semi-complicated, but I just wanted to illustrate how I eyeball things kind of from a distance, and then zoom in, and then go in and kind of like play them together. So I'm going to play the video, and yeah, so you'll have it playing here in the background. So a lot of the stuff that you can see me doing is I'm blocking out the shapes. So I'm putting in a lot of the 2.5D perspective where I think it should be naturally. And this comes from studying perspective. Obviously, when the fundamentals are probably the most important thing, and when you understand a lot of the fundamentals, like you understand perspective pretty well, then you're able to kind of draw things at a distance and eyeball them really well, because you understand the core of it. So luckily this game was a 2.5D game, so it lent slightly more towards an orthographic type of perspective. So, I mean, after like a few scenes, I was so in it with the 2.5D that I could do it like almost, yeah, it didn't take too long for me to do it. So, yeah, so basically what you're seeing here is I'm just putting the general shapes that I want the pieces to look like. I'm putting the shapes where I think they fit best. Anyway, and yeah, so I'm basically eyeballing what type of shapes work well with what type of shapes. So you saw that line at the top, the kind of the wire line that you have going. I thought it worked quite well with the very geometric buildings that you have. And also you'll notice like a lot of the lighting that I have going on in the windows and such, it's the types of brushes that I use are extremely painterly to kind of break from the very rigid structures that you have. And I just copy a lot of stuff as well. Like by copy, I mean copy my own stuff. So you'll see there, I just bashed in that kind of crane type looking thing. And yeah, I mean, it's when you have like an IP going of your own, and you have like an IP that you know really well, once you start building the thing out, you eventually start like referencing your own type of work, and that's when it gets like really fun, because that's when you really feel like you are building this world. You're not just building like a 2.0 of some other thing that you have been looking at. You really feel like you're building your own unique type of a world. And what's rad is like you start to get into a style as well of this world, like, and this only comes from really fleshing it out, and really getting like invested in it. So you'll see I'm jumping between two different PSD documents there. So the one, my game developer, he developed a lot of the block structures there, just so the gameplay wasn't too easy and wasn't too difficult, so it was like just right. And I would keep on going back and forth between that document and this one, and I would kind of lay it over in the background. So I was like, okay, the jumps need to be this far and that can't change, but basically everything else around there I had like complete free range, which was super cool. It was really, it's very rare to have that as like, yeah, one of the first games that you make to have such complete range like this. So yeah, I mean, I got so into the spirit of drawing these shapes. I used the lasso tool, the polygon one. So it gives you a very rigid type of a look because these are buildings. And then the type of stylization that I was doing over top of it was very kind of leaning towards an eyeball type of effect that I've been talking about. So it's putting in all the structure there. So that's the main important thing when you're eyeballing something. You want to put all the structure in. So put everything in that you know is meant to be there with the correct perspective and like the more or less the correct lighting. And then, so this is the type of style that I was doing for this game, is I would put all the structure in and then I would go back, and the stylization part was more the eyeballing where I didn't zoom in too much. And I knew, it's like when a lot of traditional painters, they learn all of these rules so they can learn how to break them. And you'll hear that everywhere. You'll hear that all over the place where it's like you learn the rules and then you learn how to break them. So my type of style in this game that I was leaning towards was like putting in the structure that are so-called the rules, and then the stylization part that I did over top of it was the part where I broke a lot of the rules, and the part where I was like, okay, how can I communicate this in like an interesting way? Because it's easy to articulate something like once you've learned the rules and you're just following the rules, but the types of things that get interesting is where you start breaking the rules. And you'll find that with a lot of like really amazing artists, is that you'll find like they learn how to break the rules really well. That keeps it extremely interesting. And that was what I was aiming for here. So the eyeballing part was kind of the secondary part. I had to formulate a really good way to do this because I was jamming out these things, like one of them a day. So I had to find a way, so in the mornings I would do a lot of the structural stuff. I would set up a lot of the structural elements. And then in the afternoons, that would be when I would do a lot of the stylization, because I could kind of enter into a more of a flow. I didn't have to think too much. So yeah, that's kind of what I was doing. And you'll see like a lot of these things, I'm using elements from the scenes before. So like a lot of I can see the neon signs I've already painted out. Because we want the 2D game to look the same, I used a lot of these elements. And yeah, I mean, I designed them, so putting them in there, I basically just changed everything else to fit it exactly how it would look as if I did paint it, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, eyeballing a lot of this stuff kept it very fluid, and that's really what my style leans towards. Is I want it to feel liquid, and I want there to be kind of a fluidity to it. So that was why I set my afternoons to just stylizing. I didn't do any structural stuff in the afternoons, only in the mornings. And I think a lot of the cool part about eyeballing things is like you actually learn a lot about the way something appears to someone else's eye just by eyeballing it. So I found like from eyeballing something, I started to see the world in such a way of how I would paint something. So if I was looking at a scene, I'd be like, I would paint this in this way and I would do it like this. And in my mind, I wasn't going in to dissect every single little detail of the whole scene. I was more seeing the general side of the scene, of how it fitted together. So that was like, that started to become really interesting to me, particularly in this project, is I was like, wow, this is how, like, it's really easy to capture an essence of a scene. And I think eyeballing, it does really well to push yourself to capture the essence of something. And I think a lot of great artists, at least my favorite artists, are really good at capturing the essence of something. So it was actually mind-blowing to start to see the world in essence and to start to eyeball things. I always have been someone who eyeballed a lot of my art works, but I think just doing this type of a thing really grew me in that type of a way, just in eyeballing things and kind of like, I don't know, seeing how I could capture that scene in as little strokes as possible. Because I think I watched this video, this guy tried to capture this scene of something in as few strokes as possible. That was his goal, and he really nailed it, and it was insane to watch. And I think that's an amazing, like, you guys should all try do that. I'm definitely gonna try to do more of that, especially when I go do outdoor painting. And I think, like, I always had this motto, like, think twice, paint once. And it's not for all cases it's like that, but I think it's a really good way to try and understand how to eyeball a scene. So yeah, dude, in the background, what you're seeing is just one of the stages that or one of the sections that I did for the mobile game that me and my team developed. If you want to download it, I will leave the link in the description below. And yeah, if you like my artwork, if you want to see more stuff, please leave a comment. Let me know what stuff you want to see, any different topics you want me to discuss. This channel is just about art because I love art and I love mindset. So this is fusing both of them together, and I really want to be able to reach a bigger audience, to be able to, I don't know, lift people's minds up so they can see things in a certain way and alleviate anything that they think is holding them back. So yeah, let me know what you want me to make videos on, and yeah, hit a subscribe, and I will check you guys in the next one. Peace.